Here we go, Andrea. We'll start in just a second.
No problem. I was hoping that I can go to your studio to get this interview.
Right. Here we go. Welcome to Asia in Review. I'm your host, Bill Sharp. Our show today, the new business climate in Taiwan. And joining us via Skype from Taiwan is Andrea W. Wu, who is the president of the American Chamber of Commerce and also a very accomplished businesswoman, as you might guess, having held many senior management positions for United Airlines Taiwan. Welcome to Asia in Review. It's great to have you.
Thank you, Bill. Good afternoon to you.
Great. Well, the American Chamber of Commerce in Taiwan, we can guess what its mission is, but since we have the president of the chamber online, can you tell us what the mission of the chamber is?
Sure. AmCham Taipei, we want to foster the development of investment and trade between the United States and Taiwan. And also we seek to enhance Taiwan's economic environment by promoting the international business standards in the area of legislation, regulations, and enforcement. And our chamber was established back in 1951, so we just celebrate the 64th anniversary here in Taipei.
Wow, it's really an organization with some history behind it. Well, I'm a little bit familiar with American chambers in Asia, having lived in Japan for a long time, where I was a member of the American Chamber of Commerce in Japan. And I know every year there's the door knock, and that seems to be one of the major activities of American chambers in Asia. For the benefit of our viewers, could you tell them how that works and what its goal is?
Sure. Usually we will form a delegation and including different leaders from various sectors, and we will spend a whole week of time meeting with staffers from congressional offices and also administrations, including the State Department, the Commerce Department, USTR, NSC, and so and also some of the think tank in Washington to learn what's the current environment, and also we'll share what was happening on the ground in Taiwan. So it's always a very, very productive trip. And when we come back to Taiwan, we also giving the briefing to Taiwan government, starting from the Premier's office. So we always receive very, very high remarks because our members spend their own time and own expenses to go to do this type of meetings. And we've been conducting that for more than 20 years so far.
Wow. So let me give you a hypothetical situation. Maybe it's not so hypothetical. An American company is interested in investing in Taiwan, and they come to you for advice. What do you tell them?
Well, Taiwan actually, first of all, Taiwan is the 10th largest trading partner to the U.S. Maybe that's a fact not too many people knows about it. And I think last in 2015 or late 2014, I think Taiwan is only behind Brazil and before the trading volume, before India. So can you imagine a small island and, the trading volume to U.S. is huge comparing to all those bigger countries. That's one. And then Taiwan is a very open society. They have very good human resources, the talents here, and good rule of law. And the geographically, it's very, very conveniently located. So if you have merchandise or products you need to ship within Asia, then Taiwan's location is perfectly for these companies. And then the capitals, it's abundant capitals here, and they also have very, very good IP protection. So I think there's just so many advantages, and plus the China connection. Taiwanese people and Chinese people, they share the same language and mostly the same culture. So it's very successful for Taiwanese businessmen working in China. So I think for U.S. company finding a partners in across the strait, I think Taiwan will be perfectly positioned.
Now, when you say finding a partner across the strait in mainland China, do you mean a Chinese partner or a Taiwan partner that's already positioned in the mainland?
I mean, for U.S. company who wants to get into China market, but because that's huge and very complicated, so for U.S. company, especially mid-sized or smaller size companies, finding a partner in Taiwan, going into China together.
Oh, I see. Okay, teaming up with a Taiwan partner. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask you that question a little bit later down the road, but since you touched on it now, let's talk about that a bit, because Taiwan has really tried to sell itself to the foreign business community, whether it be American, European, or whoever, as a great place, a kind of a launching pad to do business with China. Is that really panning out? Is that really living up to expectations?
We see it's very successful for Taiwan, for Japanese company teaming up with Taiwanese company going into China. I think geographically, Taiwan and Japan are very close, 3 hours flight.
Right.
And then also historically, Taiwan used to be 60 years ago. It was a colony under Japan.
Right.
For many. So I think historically, they're still quite comfortable working together. So I see Japan really is a country taking a lot of advantage of that. And we also have European and U.S. companies doing that, but as a number-wise, it's probably smaller than Asian countries.
It's interesting that you mentioned that Taiwan-Japan connection, because so many people say, oh, Taiwan, it's so Americanized, it received, so much American attention and influence. But to me, the Japanese influence is really deep. And to me, it's in many ways much deeper than the American influence.
I think so. I think, and also it goes by industries. I think in medicine, and actually it's a split. I think there's a younger generation when, after university, they went to the United States and learned the medicine. There's one group. And then there's another group. It's a different type of upbringing, because many of the parents are fluent in Japanese. Yeah. So they probably, naturally, they will go to Japan after university and study or work, having, work experience there. So we see two different groups, actually. Yeah.
That's quite interesting.
Yeah.
Quite interesting. And not to meander from the focus of the interview, but certainly in Japanese society, there's a lot of information about Taiwan. I mean, the Japanese press corps in Taiwan is pretty big, whereas the American press corps is rather limited in actuality.
And the funny thing is, after that nuclear disaster in Japan, Taiwan actually, I think they donate altogether, people and government, they donate a lot of money and resources, maybe ranked number 2. I can't remember.
Right.
Yeah. So since then, Taiwan really earned the respect and friendship from Japan altogether. So every time you go or you see people coming over, they still refer back. That was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
The disaster. Yeah. So I think sometimes those humanity works actually go much longer and beyond all those economic or political.
Well, let me ask you this question. Maybe get back on track a little bit. Okay, we talked about an American company comes to you and says, well, we want to invest in Taiwan. What advice do you have for us? Okay, and I think we dealt with that. how about a Taiwan company comes to you and they say, well, we want to do business with Americans, with an American company. Well, what should we know? We don't have any previous experience of doing business with an American company, and we need your advice. What would you say?
I probably will tell them that they really have to have a lot of capitals put together to get ready to go to the U.S. because one, I think the operation cost, including the salary, the rent, and everything, is much higher than here in Taiwan. Mm-hmm. Also, I think the legal structure is different. Mm-hmm. I think when they going into a market like U.S., especially each state has a different law, right, and regulations.
Right,
I think we really should do a lot of studies, but I think it's very fortunate now. Obama administration put together this Select USA, mm-hmm.
The
Commerce Department, and then so in AIT here, which is equivalent de facto embassy in Taipei.
Right.
Yeah, and then they have a great team on the ground, so they can offer a lot of information and support. So I think having a program together definitely works. 10 years ago, before this Select USA, because I've been serving for the U.S. company all along, so we get this type of questions or requests all the time. It's very difficult to help Taiwanese company to go to, a central point to get information. So mm-hmm. I'm happy that the current administration having such a program together. And I'd like to say, since you mentioned this, Taiwan in the past 3 years, I would say, also sent a very big delegation, because each year the Select USA will do maybe in the spring, will do a big conference, and they want to attract people from overseas companies. And I think Taiwan, 3 years in a row, ranked number 2 as the delegation size, only after China. And then China, everything is huge.
Right. China, huge and complicated, it seems to me.
Yeah. So also we've been follow up whether, the delegation size is one thing. We hope there were real investments, and we were told by AIT that there were real investments going to the States. So I think that's really positive.
Okay. Well, now you interpreted the question to mean a Taiwan company wants to go to America to do business, but how about, let's say, a Taiwan company has a prospective American partner in Taiwan, and they want to put together a joint venture or something like that. What advice would you have for the Taiwan company in that particular situation?
It actually, it happens all the time. There's a lot of major U.S. companies coming into Taiwan, and they use their distributor or key agents in this market. So that partnership exists, and it's still going on. And I think most of the cases I see have been very, very successful. I can give you some examples.
Sure.
Ford automobile has been here for 40 years, and they call themselves Ford Aloha in Taipei, in Taiwan.
Okay.
Because Aloha is a Taiwanese conglomerate and working with Ford, representing Ford in this market, and for 40 years. And I think it's a win-win situation. The company I used to work for, United Airlines, also have a general sales agent in Taiwan, working in the market on behalf of United Airlines. There's just so many, and a lot of hotel chains, the owner of the property are Taiwanese businessmen. So that goes on, the list goes on and on. We haven't seen too many bad stories, more of successful stories. So I think the two, and a exporting country all along. So the people here and the business owners, they are very internationalized. More so, U.S., very close to U.S. Culture as well. A lot of people, in this government, so many officials went to the United States and get a PhD coming back from those Ivy League college. So U.S. is not stranger at all in this country. And funny that some of our key members even put it in a way that Taiwan still loves United States.
Oh, that's good to hear. On that note, we'll take a break here. We'll be back in about 1 minute. Don't go away. You're watching Asia in Review. I'm your host, Bill Sharp. Our guest today is Andrea Wu, President of the American Chamber of Commerce. She's coming to us from Taipei, Taiwan via Skype, and we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Chris Leatham, and I'd like to invite you to come and watch my show every Wednesday at 3.
Andrea,
I'm
we have 1
interested
minute.
in a variety of issues that have to do
And
with
then,
politics
we'll do
and
about
our
another
local
15
business
minutes,
economy.
and then there'll be
And
another
I'd like to
break,
bring on
and
guests
15
who like to
minutes
talk
after that,
about
we're done.
everything from technology
Great.
to
Okay,
social
thank
media to what we can be doing to
So
improve
when-
our environment. And so I'd
When
like
we
to
get
invite
this,
you every
up
Wednesday
online,
at
like
3
I
to
said,
stay
I'll
and
send
watch
you the
my
link
show
once I'm sure it's
here
up
with
online.
ThinkTech Hawaii. And I'll
then
see
if
you
you're
there.
satisfied with it, I would
Hi, my
like
name's
to
Cindy
request that
Matsuki,
you
and I
put
host
it
the
on
show
the American
High
Chamber of
Growth
Commerce
with
Taiwan
HTC
website.
on ThinkTech Hawaii.
Okay.
That'd be
This
really
is the
great.
show
We
where
really
talk
would
about all
appreciate
things
that.
Tech, innovation,
Okay.
entrepreneurship, and manufacturing, because there's so many
Great.
things going on in Hawaii, and more people should know about them. So
I
this
guess we have about
program
30
that you can
seconds
come
left
and find
here.
out about all
Okay.
the things
How many
happening in
chambers
Hawaii.
have you interviewed
And the show
before?
also
Well,
airs
you're my
on
first.
before, along with ThinkTech
Oh,
Hawaii.
wonderful.
And
I
Yeah, you're my
hope
first.
it'll be a good
Every other Tuesday
experience
at
for
3
you.
p.m.
Thank
So
you.
don't forget, check out the show.
5 seconds
Tuesday,
now.
3 p.m. every other week. High Growth with HTDC. Thanks.
Welcome back to Asia in Review. I'm your host, Bill Sharp. My guest today is Andrea Wu, President of the American Chamber of Commerce in Taiwan. And we've been talking about doing business in Taiwan. What about the business climate in Taiwan? What should American companies watch out for? What are the opportunities to interact with Taiwan companies? What are the opportunities to use Taiwan as a base for doing business in mainland China? Well, let's talk about American companies here, since the American Chamber of Commerce is about American business. What mistakes do you often see American companies making in Taiwan?
mistakes. Huh?
Mm-hmm.
I can speak from some of my experiences early on. I think American companies or the headquarters in certain cities in the States, sometimes they don't know Asia
Mm-hmm.
very well.
Mm-hmm.
And so they coming into a new country thinking everything just like back home. And everything should operate just like back home.
Mm.
Not knowing that each country has a very different set of laws or
Culture.
customary practices and culture, right? Or people is very different nowadays, especially with the younger generation. So I think in that sense, it takes them a little while. Sometimes the local manager, general manager, is very in touch with the real market, but it's very hard to convince headquarters. Sometimes, especially with legal, you know, anything being reviewed by legal and nothing can be done in the market. So that's the frustration we see a lot of local managers having, because they know if you want to be competitive, you need to be fast, you need to be flexible, you need to be, cultural sensitive. But sometimes that's a lot of discussions have with the headquarters. I think that really is one area. It's really slowing down some of the progress for U.S. companies in Asia.
You know, one criticism of American business I've often heard, and I think this extends to lots of countries in Asia, it's not particular to Taiwan, is American companies come in and they want a deal fast. You know, we want it tomorrow. And usually in Asia, it takes a while to cultivate relationships, to build trust, and to work out deals. Do you find that to be a problem?
Totally. I think. Well, it's not. Yes, I think. Like I said, the investors back home or the CEOs back home want to see revenue or profit right away. You know, they have this revenue goals. But in the country, you have to build a trust, earn your reputation first, right?
Right.
So I think sometimes people back home may be a little too aggressive on the goal, or maybe a little naive about the local market situation. So good thing is we see a lot of local managers being very, very practical, and they have done their best job to communicate and even try to bring their senior management coming into the market to take a look and understand as a first hand, knowing the market dynamics. So I think that's very important. And we do see some of the very conservative companies turn around after their CEO coming paid a visit.
You know, I have heard people call this the tyranny of the head office.
I hope not too many head offices tuning in to this episode.
I'll be on their blacklist. You know, another area that I've often heard problems evolve in is the legal environment. I mean, Americans tend to be very legalistic and have very complex, highly detailed contracts. Whereas in Asia, contracts are not as important. They tend to be more loosely written. And from what I've seen, problems evolve from this.
Taiwan has a different, well, yes, that's for the private sectors. You know, private sectors, I get complaints from like some of the construction people. They're saying that if they work with, multinational U.S. companies, whatever they state in the contract is really very one-sided. It's not a balanced contract. They're only looking out for their own benefit and
right.
not, protecting the vendors.
Right.
But if it comes to the government contract in Taiwan, there's another problem. Another side of problem. In the government procurement, there's like unlimited liability. And so AmCham has been working very, very hard in the past many years, try to have that term being waived. And I think we start seeing some progress in that area. They finally understand if you put such a very high standard or restricted terms in the contract, nobody's going to come. Not a good bidder is going to come to bid on the government procurement
interesting.
contract. Yeah. So I think you see these type of things on both sides. I guess that's really is just the ultimate protectionism for their own interest.
That's an interesting point. Well, okay, looking to the future here, what kind of prospects exist for American businesses in Taiwan today? What are the great opportunities of the future?
AmCham does conduct a business climate survey every year for the past 5 years, and then we're just on the tail end of 2016's business survey. But I can quote you some of the number we see from 2015.
Okay.
Because we send this survey out to close to 500 business executives, and the the respondent rate is it's more than 50%. So I think
that's very high. That's
very meaningful. We usually get 60-some% respondent rate. So this is early 2015. Close to 70% of our respondents were saying that 2014 was a very profitable and relatively profitable year for them, and more than half of the companies saying that in 2015 they will increase the investment, and also another 50% saying that they create jobs, additional jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks very promising in the beginning of 2015. But I know, but you probably also know that in 2015, Taiwan actually economy take a dive,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the GDP growth for the year, the forecast is probably 1%. So I'm very curious to see what the respondents will say.
That's for 2015, right? 1%.
That's 2015. So now we're going into 2016. So we'll see what kind of responses. But I think we have seen some of the positive signs. In the, ICT is very competitive. So Taiwan has been always looking into another lifeline for the country, and I think they identified the bioscience or biotechnology.
Oh, that's interesting. Actually, I wanted to bring that up again later in the interview, but since we touched on it, let's jump on that right now. Tsai Ing-wen's big push to restore Taiwan's domestic economy is the creation of a biomedical industry, and I suppose that her vice presidential candidate, Dr. Chen, formerly of Academia Sinica, is the person that's going to spearhead that effort. Now, I know in the past the government the executive yuan has had lots of ideas about how to put new energy into the economy, and it's appropriated money for research in various areas. But I'm not sure much of that has really panned out. And so what's your prediction on the biomedical industry? Is this something that Tsai Ing-wen or Taiwan in general can really pull off? Or is this just an election slogan to get her elected?
I cannot comment on that election slogan.
Okay.
Because AmCham is bipartisan.
Okay. We'll just put that one to the side then.
Okay. No, I can report the progress on Taiwan current biotech result. I can say. Well, first of all, let me put a commercial for AmCham's magazine. We have
Sure.
a business topics magazine, and we make it online now for a year. Since last year, we start putting that online, and we get a lot of positive feedback. Actually, in December, there will be an article that's talking about the biotech on the rise in Taiwan. So I will be happy to share the link with you after.
Oh, I'd appreciate that. Okay. So is this something that anybody can get onto, or do you have to be a member of the chamber, or?
No, the member of the chamber will get the paper copy, but for the online digital version, anybody can get on it now.
That's great, because
It's
the more people that know about what's going on in Taiwan, the better off things are, it seems to me.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's a great magazine. We're very, very proud of it. So anyway, there are actually Taiwan seeing, this is not something new. I think back in the 20 years in the past, Taiwan always very concerned. Beyond ICT, what other major industry Taiwan can repeat the success that they had in ICT industry. So I think they identify medicine and also healthcare and biotech, because Taiwan has been very strong in medicine to start with.
Right.
And so there's a lot of talent was breeded here. So right now, since 2007, I think the government has passed an act. It's called Act for the Development of Biotech and New Pharmaceutical Industry. So after that, it's a real concrete effort they're putting together. They set up 3 biotech parks across the island, from the north, the middle of the island, and also southern.
Right. Those are very impressive, I think. Yeah.
Right, and they offer huge tax incentive the tax breaks to investment made in R&D. So I think recent years, after the 2007 till now, it's 8 years,
Mm-hmm.
and we start seeing the fruit of several very outstanding companies, and they're working on the new drugs on the AIDS and cancer and hepatitis, in these areas. One company is even working with David Ho, David Ho, who comes up with the AIDS, the cocktail, the HIV cocktail. What is that called? The drug. He's very world famous, and then he's working with Taiwan companies, working on the improvement and the next stage new drugs. So, and some of the products are already been to the phase 2 and phase 3 testing. So I think there are a few will come onto the market very soon. But the problem is this is still very infancy for this industry, because this industry takes at least a good 20 years for any new products to be mature.
Right.
So I think Taiwan is. So that's why I actually is very happy that Dr. Tsai and Dr. Chen, the vice president,
candidate,
they are also paying a lot of attention and putting this on the forefront of their policies, because we need the continuity. Even though the administration or the party may change, we hope the major policies continues and really bring results to the country.
Great. We're going to take another break here. You're watching Asia in Review. I'm your host, Bill Sharp. Our guest today is Andrea Wu, President of the American Chamber of Commerce in Taiwan. We've been talking about a whole host of business issues and economic issues present in contemporary Taiwan. We're going to take another break here. Don't go away. We'll be back in 1 minute.
This is Alice Lee Hagan, host of ThinkTech Hawaii Business Education Spotlight.
My Andrea, there's
at ThinkTech Hawaii is every Thursday from 3 to 4 in the afternoon. I bring in interesting guests from Hawaii, the mainland, and hopefully international guests in the future. Do join us on Thursday from 3 to 4 p.m.
Started its economic development with like the Kaohsiung Export-Import Processing Zone.
Hi.
And then the science parks that you mentioned, one in, where is that, Hsinchu, one in Tainan, and the other one I think is in Taichung.
So the other one is in, the science park is one is in Nangang.
Okay.
Nangang?
Oh, I know that one, yeah. And then last year they came out with this other idea about a kind of a new version of export-import processing zones. And I forget exactly what that was called, but it doesn't seem to have gone anywhere.
Why they love it?
No.
We're going to come back on the air.
I know which one. I lost that also. We've been working so hard on that, and it's not going anywhere.
We're back on the air now. Welcome back to Asia in Review. I'm your host, Bill Sharp. Our guest today is Andrea Wu, President of the American Chamber of Commerce in Taiwan. We've been talking about a whole range of business issues, economic issues, problems that American companies have when going to Taiwan, the investment environment. Also been talking about some of Taiwan's ideas to further enhance its own economic development. Just before the break, we were talking about ideas currently being discussed about upgrading the biomedical industry, which seems to be receiving a lot of attention. But, I hear some stories these days, I read some news stories that say, well, Taiwan was a key link in the international or global chain of supply chain of technological parts, computer parts, etc. But some people are beginning to say that that's beginning to slip away from Taiwan now. Perhaps due to mainland competition, the mainland has created a competitor. And what's your take on that?
That's true. I think Taiwan used to be very successful in the OEM business, right? Just manufacturing for some of the R&D's material equipment.
Mm-hmm.
But I know, but now with all the competitions, not only from China, I think probably Vietnam and a lot of other ASEAN countries also have, we are running the competitions there. So I think for Taiwan, Taiwan has to move up to the supply chain. It has to be more of a R&D, and I'm happy to say that there are many major companies, U.S. companies, are setting up their R&D centers in Taiwan, working with the local experts here, and a lot of them also working with the university to try to foster the local talents here. Like the bioscience also is, they're working with the local universities, and there's a lot of well-trained talent here. Plus, Taiwan has, I mentioned earlier, Taiwan has a very, very serious IP law. The protection is very vibrant, and also
we're talking about intellectual property protection law.
Correct.
Okay.
I'm sorry, intellectual property rights protection.
Okay.
And also last year, 2 years ago, we were working with Taiwan government on enhancement of the trade secret laws here, sort of copying U.S. Economic espionage law in Taiwan, because we start running into some of the risks that Chinese company coming in to hire the whole department away from U.S. company or Taiwanese company, and then 2-3 months later, they can start with all the most advanced technology.
Right.
Yeah. So I think in this sense, there are opportunities and also come with risk in China. Same thing in Taiwan, but I think Taiwan government is very clear on that path, and so they're working a lot more on the R&D. So there's also a collective effort put together by the government, different ministry, and they're really going to the innovation, reward the innovation, and also helping the startup. And you can see also there's maybe another scorecard we can share in the next few months. Taiwan, through MOEA, Ministry of Economic Affairs, or Ministry of Education, and Ministry of Science and Technology, and also National Development Council, many different ministries all put funding aside to help out the startups and innovation. So I think they realize the challenges down the road, and they're having some measures put together to tackle that.
Oh, that's great. Time runs on here, and so much to talk about. You know what? Are we going to have a bilateral investment treaty between the United States and Taiwan?
It seems like that is not going anywhere from the U.S. side.
Is it all because of pork?
Not really. It's quite complicated. I think it's also the legal process in the United States, because Taiwan is doesn't have a real diplomatic relationship with the U.S. So that's a different set of legal process. But I think TPP, we hear more on TPP, that and every time when we go to door knocking to the states, or any congressional delegation come to our office, we always advocate for Taiwan's candidacy into the second round of TPP. But
the way you're talking now is really kind of interesting, because it sounds like you're saying there's more of a chance for Taiwan to get in on the second round of TPP negotiations than there is to be a bilateral investment treaty between the United States and Taiwan. Do I hear you correctly on that?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
Okay. The way you were discussing it, it sounded like there's more of a possibility of Taiwan getting in on the second round of negotiations for TPP than there is for the conclusion of a bilateral investment treaty between Taiwan and the U.S.
I cannot say there's more likelihood on TPP more so than BIA, but I'm saying that we get more people discuss on Taiwan's candidacy to the second round. Less people is talking about BIA. We have to say BIA because Taiwan is not a diplomatic country with U.S., so it's a bilateral investment agreement instead of treaty.
This is always very tricky, the relationship between Taiwan and the U.S. It's the most official, unofficial relationship that the U.S. has going.
I know. It's very awkward sometimes, but anything comes with Taiwan, there's always a different spin.
It's challenging.
Very, very, very. And sometimes frustrating.
Yeah, very frustrating. I can understand to be a Taiwan diplomat or a Taiwan military officer, there's got to be two very frustrating professions at times.
That's right.
Interestingly enough, just I guess the day before yesterday, some pretty interesting negotiations were taking place between Taiwan and the Philippines, which seemed to suggest, maybe I'm going too far with this, but it seemed to suggest that Taiwan and the Philippines might be moving towards a free trade agreement. Is that true, or am I overreading that situation?
I'm really an outsider, but I can only say that in the past few years, Taiwan has been very diligently reaching out to countries mostly in Asia to try to have a bilateral FTA, and they were successful to sign two in the past 2 years. One with Singapore, and the other is with New Zealand. Mm-hmm. And then I heard Philippines and Australia, the names of being mentioned before. So I'm not exactly surprised, but I don't know how far it's progressed so far.
Okay, let me. We've got only a short period of time here, but I need to ask you this question: is Taiwan an open market or closed market?
Very good question. We see both. I think it probably has something to do with the industry, which industry you want to get into. If it's retail, if it's a technology, it's pretty open. But if you want to get into
agriculture,
broadcasting, like television, agriculture, yeah, it's still very challenging.
Interesting. Yeah. Interesting.
But I think Taiwan knows about it. If they want to play this international trade pack, they want to get into that, they have to open the market. So they're seriously looking at that, and we see some of very good progress in the last few months. We were very encouraging.
That's great. Well, we're coming down to our final minute here or so. Is there anything that you would like to add here as we move into our closing moment?
No, I think Taiwan is really a very, it's a hidden secret. Not too many people knows about it, and that I think Taiwan government has to do a lot more to promote itself, to the right audience.
I would really agree with you on that. I've talked to Chinese officials, Taiwan officials, and say, you guys need to tell your story better. You have a great story, but you're not telling it very well. I've written some op-ed pieces for that. And unfortunately, Taiwan gets so overshadowed by China, it gets sort of blocked out of the news. It's only when there's like an airplane crash in Taiwan or something like that, then it makes the headline news. I mean, that sounds like I'm being sarcastic, and maybe I am a little bit, but it's also true.
It's very true.
Yeah.
If you don't have a disaster, you don't get reported.
Right. Right, and the number of Western journalists in Taiwan is rather limited. The Japanese, I've met all kinds of Japanese reporters from the Mainichi, the Asahi Shimbun, the Nikkei. These guys are all over Taiwan. But I think they're mostly stringers reporting from Taiwan for the U.S. and other Western countries.
Right. So that's why we wish our online magazine can go farther and beyond the border, because we're really telling a lot of stories here.
Well, I also hope this show casts some light on Taiwan. Taiwan certainly, as I say, has a great story to tell. It's such a great story of political progress, economic development, and I often contend that a lot of countries in the world would like to be as well off politically and economically as Taiwan is.
Thank you very much for that comment. And I know you will be spending some time here next year.
Right. I look forward to meeting you in person.
Okay.
Great. Thank you very much for joining us today. And thank you
Bill.
Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll be right back here next week, same time, 4 o'clock, Monday afternoons on Asia in Review, and we'll see you then. Hey, Paul. Yeah. I always think, well, what else could I ask?
Okay, Bill, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Oh, I don't think so. Oh, she's still there? Oh, Andrea, are you still there? Oh, she hung up, yeah.